my point about how they will exaggerate on how much you care about black men to try to shut you up. Because I saw,
It's not that. It's the fact that, like I said, when we're talking about Chef Wei's situation, you literally wanted him to be fired and to not have a way to provide for his family simply because he didn't find you attractive or didn't like dark-skinned black women. That's not really your concern. Is he your husband? Is he your boyfriend? He's not. He's not with a dark-skinned black woman. It's not dark-skinned black women's issue, nor do you need to be caring about that. So, yeah, that's that part of it. Continue.
The comment over there, and they were like, oh, she doesn't deal with black men anymore. But y'all don't have to defend me on their platforms. They know that.
No, we didn't know that. Many people did not know that. Because a lot of the time, you have said that you are a rainbow swirler. I personally respect that. I mean, I worked for a channel at one point, was moderator for a channel at one point that was specifically for rainbow swirlers. So I have never, had anything against you guys. I don't have that much issue with people in regard to who they're with most of the time, unless they start including me in it. Like, don't concern yourself with who I'm with, focus on your own personal life. But the thing is, on those places, many of the time, they do not think too well of the rainbow swirler, and you did represent yourself as a rainbow swirler at one point. The fact that you're saying now that you are divested is a different thing, but you didn't broadcast that, so how is anyone gonna know that? So yeah, you can't just assume everyone knows who you're dating and how you conduct your private life, especially if you don't tell anyone.
Doing is they have to paint the narrative that any dark-skinned woman who mentions colorism for any reason is still dealing with black men, is still in Blackistan, right? They have to do that because that's the only way they can have an argument.
Well, why are you so concerned about some black man who self-hates himself? That's what he basically does. I already said this. When you're talking about issues like this, he personally hates himself. If you aren't interested in him and you don't want him, you shouldn't care. You shouldn't care that he doesn't want you because you don't want him. It should be a mutual feeling. But when you get upset at situations like Chef Wei, it kind of belies the life you live. And maybe it's because you've just started out in your divestment journey, and maybe at some point you will, care a little bit less. But, of course, some people are going to be critical of that because, you shouldn't want people to be fired simply because they don't have a preference towards you.
That's the best way. That's the best thing that they can do to try to shut you up, and it works. It works on a lot of y'all because you start thinking, "Oh, I don't want to look insecure, so I'm not going to say anything."
I want to add in here, everyone looks insecure if they want a self-hating man who is broken. Okay, if a man is saying that he doesn't like his skin tone, that he doesn't like his image, that what he creates as far as his image is messed up. He is saying he is messed up. So anyone who wants him is messed up too. They have settled for a low self-esteem black man because they couldn't get any better. I mean, who would settle for someone who is broken when you could have someone who is a normal functioning individual who actually loves themselves? Your relationship is not going to be functional when the person doesn't love themselves. It's going to be dysfunctional. So it tells you that the person is very desperate, and it's got nothing to do with skin tone. This has got nothing to do with skin tone. If this is a white person who's with this self-hating black man, an Asian person, a mixed person, a light-skinned black person, a brown-skinned black person, a dark-skinned black person, whoever is with that person is a person of a low self-esteem because you settled for a broken man. So that's all my point is here. I get tired of you trying to act like this has to do with you specifically focusing on dark-skinned black men who hate themselves. When, let's be honest, Divested Zealot actually specifically spoke on light-skinned black women who want those men and how they're messed up too. So, you can't say that she just focused on dark-skinned black women. She didn't. She focused on both sides. Anyone who wants a ruined man, a man who has condemned himself, a man who has said he is undesirable. Obviously, he has labeled himself this way because he knows himself better than everybody else knows him. So you shouldn't be shocked that, you shouldn't be shocked that he thinks poorly of himself and thinks poorly of his image, and you shouldn't be upset like you're offended personally, because he has insulted himself. Like I said, it's like you can't catch on to this. But even she, like I said, pointed out people who want him all across the board are messed up. That includes you if you are a dark-skinned black woman complaining that he doesn't want you because, well, if he said he wanted you, wouldn't that be, that's what you're saying. What else do you want him to say? If you're upset that he said he didn't like you, then the reverse would obviously be what you would want him to say. You see my point? So there is a sense or a level of desire of him to want you. And true divested women don't have that interest. Like, if you're not interested in black men, you don't want them to want you. You don't want a man to want you, especially that can be violent. And I'm not saying all black men are violent, but I'm saying men can be violent. And since men can be violent, you don't want unwanted attention from a man you don't have a preference towards, have an interest towards. So their logic was proper for the situation. I think maybe you're early in your interest in divestment, and so maybe you're different right now. But at the same time, of course, people are going to be critical that you are still fussing over what a black man wants.
And what they do, they always make it about black men instead of acknowledging that we focus on other things. We focus on prioritizing our image. We focus on corrective promotion. We focus on burning the cake for colorists.
And that's the thing. When you say that you are focusing on uplifting your image and promoting corrective promotion, these things aren't even specific to most black women. It's specific to dark-skinned black women. You are trying to set a scene where dark-skinned black women are preferred. But dark-skinned black women aren't even the majority of black women. So you're still creating a dang hierarchy for black women either way. I don't understand. For brown-skinned women, how does this benefit us? How does it benefit us when dark-skinned women are like, oh, let's put corrective promotion in their top priorities? How does that help most black women? It doesn't help most black women. Just focus on a small percentage of women. It's just the same thing as someone focusing on corrective promotion for light-skinned black women, which, there are plenty of storylines that depict light-skinned black women in a very negative light. I don't know why you don't recognize that. But in many movies where it's predominantly another race, the light-skinned black person may very well be placed in a negative view, or in a more masculine view, or in more of a sidekick view. So you can't say it's specifically dark-skinned black women that have that happening to them. It's actually a black woman issue that happens. So when you say that there's corrective promotion, it's only a small percentage. So if you were only to focus on light-skinned women, it would be a small percentage of them too. You're not actually addressing the main issue here, which is the majority of black women. And by your standards, you specifically say that brown skin is specifically between Rihanna's color, Rihanna, Beyonce's color, Nicki Minaj's color, things of that nature, all the way up to Kelly Rowland's color. Basically, everyone lighter than Kelly Rowland is brown skinned by your color chart that you brought out. You had light brown, you had safe brown, and dark brown in the brown skinned category. So, because of that, and because that's what you stated, you're basically saying that the majority of black women are going to be brown skinned, because most black women fit in the category of between, Rihanna's color to Kelly Rowland's color. Most of us fall in between those shades. I personally fall right at Rihanna's color. Right around there, maybe a shade darker, but So basically, you are saying that, brown skin women are not supposed to be getting representation. The majority of black women are brown skinned by your standards. So the majority of black women should not get corrective promotion. The majority of black women should not, their image should not be of any importance. And you don't value the image of black women. Most black women, for that matter. You only care about a small percentage of black women who are darker than Kelly Rowland. What does that help black women as a whole? That doesn't help black women as a whole, because you're only focused on one image, which is a small percentage of the black population. So that's one thing I want to say here. Continue to the next.
Who are not black men too, but also, the colorists who are not black men. And so, but they don't want to acknowledge that, because then they would have to admit that other women like them are also colorists. So that's what it's about too. They would have to deal with the fact that light-skinned women, like some of them over there, if we talk about other forms of colorism from other women, then they wouldn't get a chance to undermine us, right? So it's a competition thing there too. They're trying to maintain the hierarchy, even though they say it's just in Blackistan, they still want to maintain the hierarchy, right? They still don't want dark-skinned women to say anything about colorism or prioritize their image, even though they do that as light-skinned women. The whole thing they're doing right now, they say that colorism is a Blackistan issue, but
people like Divest Zealot aren't light-skinned, they're brown-skinned. And let's be honest, the main people who associate, are very colorist against brown-skinned black women is specifically dark-skinned black women and light-skinned black women. You guys are the most colorist against us. You guys think it's totally okay to just judge our skin tones in such sick ways. So, when you're trying to talk about someone being colorist, I think it's you on that regard. In my personal experience from people on the Chrissy side of YouTube and the followers, most of the time they're more likely to call you a ghost, bleached, dead, different terms like that, because we have more of a faded brown hue, and because of this, they tend to think it's okay to attack. And also, it's not just that. There'll be other things. Like, for example, trying to actually put light-skinned people above brown-skinned people. You love to do that. Love to remind brown-skinned people how they're not light enough, that they're not light-skinned, that they're not as good as light-skinned people. That comes from your side as well. It comes from both sides. So when you talk about saying that they're colorist and you're talking about brown skinned people, you try to make them light skinned for your convenience. But in the same breath, you would say that they're not light skinned because I've seen how you specifically place everyone in your shade video. So you wouldn't consider the people you're calling light skin in the first place. You just do it for your convenience. If you were actually being honest about the situation and you were literally admitting that the person you're talking about is brown skinned, and most Black American women are brown skinned, so you are leaving out a lot of brown skinned Black women, and you're doing this knowing full well that most Black women do not fit the image you're putting forth, So to me, it's just kind of like, you're trying to call other people colorists, and you're trying to call, Black women colorists, and that they're trying to enforce a hierarchy that would not benefit us. Hierarchy doesn't benefit me because that's putting yellow, light-skinned people above me. You really don't pay attention. Obviously, the hierarchy is used against brown-skinned Black people. Dark-skinned people use the hierarchy against brown-skinned Black people to make them feel less than for their skin tone. Light-skinned people use the hierarchy against brown-skinned people to make them feel badly about their skin tone. So you guys both do that. So you can't really say that a brown-skinned Black woman is trying to use the hierarchy to benefit herself. Most likely what's going on there is that many of the time, many of us like to break out of that whole idea of things because we see how both sides will get very negative against you. And then it even works within our own shade range of, dark brown to light brown to safe brown, even. It works in that whole range, and it's just tumultuous, for someone who is brown skinned. So, I don't think anyone brown skinned is really trying to enforce the hierarchy. The only time brown skins ever try that hierarchy thing is with Black men, because sometimes Black men are like that, especially African men, like your friend. A lot of African men think super darker shades of brown are still light skinned. Like, for example, Angela Bassett would be considered light skinned in a lot of different African communities. And, even sometimes Gabrielle Union, for that matter. Obviously your friend Paris Milan, who is like, the same color as isn't she the same color as Nicki Minaj? I would say not too far from that. Would definitely benefit in those type of situations, and that's why she gravitates to those type of communities, because she knows they'll choose her over you. But that's the only time anyone's playing that game. That may be very well why someone brown skin would tell you that, because that's the only time it's a benefit. That's the only time one can get a fake prize, basically. It's not a real prize. It's a self-hating Black man who hates his image, who's going to create more kids like him that hate their image, because you guys live in a life of self-hate. Like, you just signed your life over to misery. But that's not the point. That's all I have to say in this video. It's just basically, I kind of feel like with this situation, you don't really pay attention to what you're talking about. And if anyone wanted to actually look at the true nature of the situation, they would see that it's not light-skinned women. It's not light-skinned women trying to put themselves above you. It's black women that you alienate. And it's most black women that you alienate. And it's your message that alienates most black women to the point where most black women can't even go on your platform because you only support one image, and that's very dark skinned people. You don't support any other image. You don't support the image of the majority of black women. So that's all I have to say. Thanks for watching, everyone. Like and subscribe and comment down below. Have a great day. Bye, guys.